Hey, on today's video, we're going to tell you if Dice Miner is right for you. Welcome to Wisco Dice. Hey, yo, folks, I'm your host, the Conesy with the Most, and I am joined today by...
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
And today we are reviewing Dice Miner from Atlas Games. This game plays 1 to 4 players and plays easily under 30 minutes, maybe an hour, even at full player count. This game is a dice drafting, oh man, I meant dice mining game. But with that, let's go ahead and dive into our game overview.
So in Dice Miner, you are dwarven miners digging through this mountain to dig up treasures, and at the same time you are trying to avoid all these hazards that you encounter. So on a turn, you are going to take a die from this mountain that has 2 sides open to it, and you are going to draft that and put it down in front of you. Now, how do you know which die to pick? There are 5 different dice in this game. You'll see that we have white dice, which are our tunnel dice, and you are trying to make a straight going from 1 to 5 pips on the dice, and that's how deep your tunnel is getting. The further and further you get into the mountain, the better your score will be for that round. The next type of die is the black one, which is the hazard dice. This represents all of the obstacles that these miners are encountering. You have cave-ins, which are rocks falling on you, and then you have dragons that are circling outside this mine trying to get their hands on, protect their gems. So how do you combat those guys? You have green tool dice. The tool dice have shields and treasure chests and pickaxes on them that you can use to combat and lock up your treasure that you have. Speaking of treasure, you have the yellow dice, which is the treasure dice that has between 1 and 3 gems on it, which is very simply the number of points you get for that side.
My precious.
And then lastly, you have the blue magic dice. These have their own special phase in the game and let you re-roll dice that you have in your pool that you may not like. Now, you may have noticed that these dice, like I said, the white tunnel dice only have pips from 1 to 5, but there's 6 sides. The 6th side of each of the dice has a mug of beer on it. So these dwarven miners, when it's time for a break at the end of the day, they sit down and enjoy beer with their friends. And what you can do, if you want to, instead of picking 1 die on your turn but want to take 2, you have a mug of beer in front of you, you can roll it and say,
"Cheers!"
And then your opponent now gets that die you roll to them, but you get to pick 2 dice from the mountain and do some extra mining that time. So that's what the basic turn is like. You're going to keep going around taking turns until all the dice are gone from the mountain, and you're going to have them in front of you. So that's the excavation phase. The next phase, the magic phase, is where you take those blue dice and re-roll. After that, you are going to score what's in front of you and record that score. And that is 1 round. You refill the mountain with dice and you proceed to the next round. And there are a total of 3 rounds in the game at the end. Then you hit your final score. What's nice is that whatever dice you collect during a round, those are your starting dice for the next round. So you build and your score will get exponentially larger, you will see. So there's, you need to decide what you want to draft early on in the game and what you want to draft later on to get the best score.
One other thing to add to the gameplay is that at the start of the game, players are dealt 1 random dwarf role that they are going to be during the game. This grants them a special power and allows the game to have just a slight bit of asymmetry to the game. Nothing that's dramatically game-breaking, but like here, the treasurer, he comes with 2 treasure chests and counts as having a gem for the purposes of every scoring round. So you can certainly get some benefits from that. I mean, he's worth a point every round. It's 3 guaranteed points you'll get just for playing the treasurer. So One other thing to note is that the game is, like I said, relatively fast.
Oh
So
yes.
great to go ahead and play
Do
in
it a best out of two, best out of
three
three, best out of five. You have time to do that in between other games on a game day, or even in an hour. You can knock out
little
a
mini
couple games of
little
it.
mini tournament during a game day of Dice Miner. All sorts of things you can do with this. But with that, we've definitely talked about the gameplay itself and how the game plays. But let's talk a little bit about the components and what we think of those.
So I really like the quality of the components. I mean, we should mention that this box, which is about an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper size on the front of it, obviously it's thicker than that, was about $35 US. So when you think of that, you think of usually a cheaper end game for what we normally play. But this has got thick cardboard, nice dice, a great cloth bag that you keep everything in. I don't know, Conesy, what are your thoughts on these components?
I'm absolutely floored with the amount of custom dice you get in this game, and then you couple that with the thickness of the card stock that makes up all of these components, and you don't have to punch any of this out, if I remember right. I think you had to punch out the mountain, but these character tiles we didn't have to punch out; they were just came like this. Then they are thick. This is some of the thickest card stock I have seen in a board game. You don't find card components like this is like the kind of stock that you see the game board made out of. It's that thick. So really well done from a production and quality of components. Can't complain there. I do have a couple of little niggling complaints about the components and the overall design of the game. One of those is this mountain. While I think it's absolutely essential to the theme of the game, it does pose a problem if you have players that are sitting relatively far apart because in order for them to get it, you have to pass this thing around the table. And while it's really stable, inevitably I'm probably going to be the person who's the klutz that knocks it over in the middle of a round, and at that point you may have wrecked the entire game. So that could be a real problem. The other thing that I just was a little bit of a niggling complaint when we first picked this up and played it. And now that we've played it, I don't know, dozens of times, it's no longer a problem. But is the fact that Suzanne talked about all these dice having all these different symbols, pickaxes and cave-in symbols, and dragon symbols, and gem symbols, and magic symbols, and the list goes on and on and on. But there's no quick reference guide for a player to understand what the symbols are and what they mean in the game. I really wish that they had that. And one of these things is because you're able to deal these character cards out at the beginning of the game. It has beautiful generic beer mug art on the back of the tile, which is awesome. I really love it. But it could have just been as easy to put a quick reference guide on the back of these so that, hey, I have the component in front of me that tells me what I get every round, what my special ability is, and gives me a little cool art on what my character is supposed to be in the game. But I could always flip it over really quickly and, oh, what's this symbol mean? And I have it there. I don't have to interrupt the game by asking whoever's teaching to explain something or ask somebody to pass me the rule book to figure it out. So those are my only real complaints when it comes to the components and design. Really, they're really minor, but I do think it's important to be aware of them. So with that, let's dive into the theme and immersion of the game. For theme and immersion, I really do think this game is amazing. I will say, until we started doing this review, I really didn't have a feel for the theme of this game. I mean, you didn't. I didn't. The white dice in the little sets of 1 through 5, starting at 1. Like, okay, you're just collecting sets of dice. I didn't. I didn't actually understand that the game design is really supposed to be representing that you're digging tunnels with those dice. So when Suzanne explained that to me, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, and that's so like that adds so much to the theme. And now I think I'm really excited to play this game again because I feel like I'm going to be playing it with a new appreciation for some of the theme design thoughts that they put into what is otherwise pretty much just a dice drafting game. So Suzanne, did you have anything to add to the theme? Your thoughts about the theme or the immersion of this game?
So I really feel the theme comes through strongly for having such simple, basic, minimal components with it. When I'm going through, digging through this mine in the mountain, it's like, gosh, I can see what I want just a little bit further ahead, but I've got these obstacles in the way that need to get cleared out first, or, what am I going to do? So it's just kind of fun to do that. And the artwork that we mentioned before, like, it's unique dwarven artwork. I've not seen any other games where it's like this exact style. So it's just kind of fun that way. You can really, for me, I can really picture myself getting into this game, and that's a lot of fun. I've taught this game so many times that the theme with the dice kind of stands out a little bit more each time I explain it too. So
Well, there's nothing like after you've taught a game several times that you really can start to bring out a theme of a game too, because now you're not just trying to remember how the game works. You've got that repetition, so now you can kind of bring out those thematic flares. And for people who are learning the game, that can really help them also learn the game and understand how mechanically something's supposed to work because you've informed them of the theme. But yeah, I really find myself struggling when it comes to teaching theme as part of teaching a game, usually until I've taught the game a few times.
yes, definitely.
So did have a little story to tell before we get to our ratings for this game. So when Gen Con 2021 happened, this was that first Gen Con after the pandemic shutdown of Gen Con back in 2020, where it was just the first Gen Con online, which, still goes. It's awesome that they are still maintaining a Gen Con online presence. But we actually went, and it was a very reduced capacity. I think it was like 35,000 or something people there, and but the exhibition hall and the vendor space was pretty much the same number of vendors, a few less, and it was a little slightly smaller, but pretty much same floor space was there for vendors, and what that really translated to was a lot more opportunities to demo games on the show floor that you maybe hadn't heard of or hadn't seen or weren't on your radar. And that's exactly what happened for us for Dice Miner. So we're walking down the exhibition floor. It's nice and casual. And we turn the corner around one row to get ready to go down the next row. And here's a wonderful lady that's demoing Dice Miner at the Atlas Games booth. And she had two other people sitting there already. She just taught them how to play the game, and they were going to go through the demo. And we were kind of watching. And normally, that's kind of what I do, at least at a lot of these larger conventions. Is I'll just watch a demo, kind of see the basics, kind of go for a round or half a round, and then I'll walk away. But she was like, "Here, play, like I got space." And so we jumped into the demo too, and within probably all of about a minute maybe of explanation, we were in and actually playing the game, and we played through a full round. We had a blast, and that meant, because we had a blast, we bought it right there at the show floor. And then the game, before we ever got it home at Gen Con that year, it must have had a dozen plays on our copy. At least it got a lot of plays.
And that's not just the two of us. Sorry, it's not just the two of us playing those copies.
Yeah, we actually sat down in the open gaming area and just kind of made a impromptu Whisker Dice open gaming night. So it was pretty awesome. Yep. So that'll give you a little bit of inform on, I think, where our ratings stand on this game. But at Whisker Dice, we do rate things based on how we feel the dice on a D10 roll came up for us in regards to our feelings on the game. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Suzanne, how did that dice come up for you?
So for me, I came up a 7 for this game. Dice Miner, great, compact game, very efficient, and a lot of fun to play, a lot of fun to teach, and it's just a great game all around for me. How about you, Conesy?
I had an absolute blast with the game. I really do like this game. It's not as heavy or crunchy or meaty as some games that I would probably rate a bit higher, because it doesn't have quite that much depth. So I give it a solid 7 on that dice. That's how it came up for me. I think this game is a wonderful game for a filler game, for a game that's a little lighter, something you want to play with the family. it's a decent size form factor, so you can throw it in easily and take it with you when you go to a game day or a socially activity, and still be able to have a chance to get it out. So great for all of those things, and I think that's why it keeps getting back to the table for us and has as many plays on our copy as it does, because it is, since 2021, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the most played games actually in our collection since when we purchased it. So, all right, do you have any final thoughts?
Just, I would recommend you checking out this game if you are looking for something light and fun and dicey,
Yeah, and I will say, like, if one person in your like general board game group has a copy, I don't feel like this is a game where you have to go out and then get it, because just play their copy. But if nobody in your group, and maybe you're like us and have 8, 10, 12 people or that you regularly play board games with, and nobody else has a copy, definitely go out and buy this one. So I think that wraps it up for our review of the Dice Miner from Atlas Games. Hey there, it's Conesy. Thank you so much for watching. We put out videos weekly here at Wisco Dice. Check out our channel for more great videos, and don't forget to subscribe. We also have more great content on our website at wiscodice.com. Of course, we do this all for you, the viewers. So please like the video if you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.